Welcome to Central News. I'm Wayne Douglas. Thames Coromandel Mayor Glenn Leach will speak at a meeting about the amalgamation of Waikato councils later in the month. The Waikato branch of Property Council New Zealand, a non-for-profit organisation that represents property owners, managers and investors, has called a meeting to present its submission to the Local Government Commission in favour of amalgamation. Thomas Gibbons, chairman of the Amalgamation Subcommittee, and Natalie Jackson, a professor of demography at the University of Waikato, will also be speaking at the meeting for the Property Council New Zealand members and their guests on April the 30th at Wintec. The submission says the organisation wants a reorganisation of local government in the Waikato. The Property Council suggests the creation of a unitary authority called the Greater Waikato Council, with one regional mayor as opposed to a super city model like Auckland. Boundaries would include Waikato District, Hamilton City, Waipa District, Matamata-Piako District and parts of the Otorohanga, South Waikato and Waitomo districts. Waikato has attracted more tertiary students this year than last, with trade and professional studies appearing to be an increasing attraction. Skills from drain laying to cyber security and tikanga Māori can be studied in the Waikato at its three major tertiary institutions, the University of Waikato, Wintec and Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. Student numbers have increased since the Waikato Trades Academy began in 2011 with 48. This year 420 students from 25 Waikato secondary schools are enrolled. The Waikato Trades Academy is part of a government-led initiative where Year 11 to 13 students can get an early start in their chosen trade or profession by studying at Wintec and school at the same time. Overall student numbers at Wintec were similar to the same time last year, with 4,034 equivalent full-time students, and international student enrolments were up 6% on the same time last year. The majority of increases have been in areas such as computer science and engineering, social sciences and management. Anglesea Hospital will soon open its new wing as demand increases for the private hospital's facilities. From April 28th, entry into the new wing will reveal a new reception area, recovery room, day stay area, operating theatre and staff facilities. The new operating theatre will be equipped with 3D imaging technology. A digital viewing room in the staff area will allow surgeries to be streamed live for training purposes. The extension totaled $1.2 million before adding the cost of fit-out and equipment. The new wing is stage 2 of a 3-stage development that began in 2013. Anglesea Hospital will be closed between Easter weekend and Anzac Day to complete the extension. A local Matamata butcher has come up with a new strategy to stay in business. Owen Henderson owns the meat company in Matamata, and he plans to keep the retail side of his business afloat by selling product at wholesale prices. With rent, wages, power and other expenses, Henderson has had to make some changes to give the approach the best chance of working. Lamb and pork have to now be bought wholesale. Beef, on the other hand, is still available from local suppliers. Consumers can save a lot of money by buying half a lamb to last 6 months, but for most people the upfront payment is unachievable, and this is the thinking that helped Henderson with his new strategy, selling at wholesale prices but in smaller quantities. After 41 years in the trade and after trying several different retail models, Henderson did not make the decision lightly. And taking a look at the marine forecast now, for Raglan, easterlies 45 knots easing to northeasterlies 20 knots, high tide 11:59 a.m. And over the hill to Tauranga, northeasterlies 30 knots rising to easterlies 40 knots, high tide is at 9:16 a.m. And coming up, we talk to University of Waikato Tauranga lecturer Nadine Bellham. Welcome back to Central News. The University of Waikato Tauranga lecturer Nadine Bellham has graduated with her PhD, becoming the first student to have studied from undergraduate to doctorate level entirely at the university in Tauranga. Ms Bellham shares her milestone with Central News.
When you say gifted or talented, what exactly do you mean?
Well, this is the question because there's actually no global definition that's universally agreed upon for gifted and talented. In New Zealand we have guidelines basically. We've decided to put together, particularly for the education sector, a a book of guidelines which gives some criteria for who might be gifted and talented in your schools. But in a nutshell, probably one of the key criteria is that gifted and talented children are those who demonstrate exceptional ability over and above that of their same age peers from the same, circumstances and backgrounds. So if you think about a group of 8-year-olds who should be performing at a particular level, your gifted and talented students would be performing at a much higher level. And that could be not just in academia. We also have a multi-categorical approach to giftedness. So you could be gifted in, for example, a sporting area or creative arts, not necessarily just intellectual ability. We also in New Zealand take a very multicultural approach to giftedness, so recognising that different cultures view giftedness very, very differently. And I guess an example of that is that, for example, Māori would often consider a group to be gifted, whereas the European culture is probably a lot more individualistic in their ideas about giftedness. Yeah.
Did you find that being labelled gifted or talented pushed some of those young people?
Absolutely, and I also think it could have the opposite effect. So I actually, one of the disadvantages of not having a much more set definition is that sometimes, or is that schools will interpret it in different ways. So you have a set of criteria. The advantage is that you can tailor those criteria to your community that you are catering for in your school. The disadvantage is that sometimes you water down what gifted and talented actually is. So suddenly you have all these children who are being labelled gifted and talented. And my personal belief is that probably there are a lot of children in our schools that have been labelled gifted and talented who, in my opinion, probably aren't. They may be high achievers, but not necessarily what I would consider to be gifted and talented. I think that being given the label gifted and talented would be really stimulating, inspiring for some children, but on the other hand, it can put some pressures on. So, for example, I'm gifted and talented, that means I need to perform. People expect so much of me, that sort of thing. And that was one of the key disadvantages of giftedness that came out of my study as well. Yeah.
And if you'd like to find out more about study options, you can visit uwt.waikato.ac.nz. The Kia Magic continues on with strong form in the National Netball League, and we talk team dynamics and styles that contribute to the winning combination with coach Julie Fitzgerald.
Julie, welcome to Central News. Let's talk a little bit about the UK import to Magic, Jo Harton. Now, she's only 24, but she's got a wealth of experience, hasn't she?
She has. I first saw Jo when she was playing for the World Youth Cup in the Cook Islands, what must be 5 years ago now, and I thought then that she had enormous potential. So I followed her career quite closely through the English system, and she just improves all the time. And I love her because she's got so much variety. She can hold, she can move, she's got great movement, great shot, and she's a tremendous personality. She's got a wicked sense of humour, and she's great to have in the group.
She's quite verbal on court. She's the one sort of yelling at the girls and arms up, she says, arms up.
She's just fabulous for the whole team.
What's the best aspect of the Trans-Tasman League in your opinion?
I don't think there's any doubt it's the best netball competition in the world. The intensity that you get in every game, week in, week out, and the skill and the speed and the way the players themselves are developing from year to year. The competition and the intensity of it is just so impressive.
I have to say, that Pulse Magic game last Monday, I felt like I was almost watching a New Zealand-Australia test. It was that intense at the arena.
It was very intense. There was a lot at stake in that match, and I was really proud of the fact that they could maintain that for what ended up being 5 quarters.
You've had a fantastic coaching career. You're so experienced, and we're so lucky to have you at Magic and in New Zealand. How did you get involved in netball? Have you always loved it? Did you play?
Yeah, I've really got the traditional netball background. I played as a kid, then as I grew up I started to coach little teams, and I loved coaching, and the standard of team I got to coach got a little bit better all the time, and then I had 3 daughters who came in and played. My son even played a little bit at school. So my love of netball goes right back to grassroots and the traditions of it all.
Do you have a specific coaching philosophy?
I do, but I think 2 things. I think on the training court, you've got to train as hard as the game will be, so we try and replicate game intensity at most of our training sessions. I do honestly believe the harder you work, the better you get. But I'm also big on the fact that if they're not having fun and enjoying it, and they're not a team that gets on well, they're not going to play well either. So I think I pay a lot of attention to the off-court side of things as well.
You've got a great assistant coach in Margaret Forsyth. You've obviously gelled well together.
We have gelled well together. We came together not knowing each other at all. We did get to spend a lot of time together before the season actually started. We have very similar values, very similar expectations, and we enjoy working together.
What do you think of New Zealand and the Waikato Bay of Plenty region so far? It's different from Sydney, where you're from.
Oh, it's totally different, and that's one of the reasons that I love it. I think to have just moved across to another city wouldn't have been anywhere near the experience that this has been, and I'm enjoying it. I'm learning all about cows and crops and all sorts of things, and meeting great people, and the scenery is just magnificent. I'm looking forward to autumn in the Waikato. I think it'll be gorgeous.
It is absolutely stunning. We love having you here. We're so proud of the girls, and go Magic.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. My team is Magic.
And the Magic will be looking for another home win at Clauden's Arena, Hamilton, this weekend as they take on the Northern Mystics. After the break, Central News goes in depth with Waikato Pistons coach Pero Cameron. Coach of the Waikato Pistons, Pero Cameron, has a wealth of experience as a former player in the National League, but is realistic about the journey ahead. Anne-Marie finds out more.
Pero Cameron, welcome to Central News. You've most recently been coach of the Wellington Saints, and now you're back with the Waikato Pistons, where you spent most of your playing days. Yeah. What's it like being back as coach?
Oh, it's great. It's it was great with the Saints. 4 years of experience I had there. Had a lot of success. But it's great to be back here with the Pistons. This was my first NBL team as a 17, 18-year-old, and I really enjoyed it. I rode the pine, so to speak, and paid my dues in my early years, and was able to get a break the next year. But it was very good. I had a mentor there, Murray McMahon. He was my coach, and he was great for me over the years, and I've really enjoyed my time here.
What would you say your biggest challenge in your coaching career has been so far?
There's a lot of different issues you encounter. Every year you learn, and what you put in is you get out. Pretty much is pretty much the rule of thumb there. But I think just dropping the athlete tag or the player tag and being a coach and gaining the respect in the eyes of your athletes and your player and your team, and even the assistant coaches and the community as a coach. That's probably the biggest thing, is trying to break through those walls and help develop a team and bring them together. And because everybody's different, everybody's got different experiences, and you got to try and mould them to go one direction and hopefully get some success.
How do you do that? How do you get a team to gel, especially in basketball? You have a lot of players from different countries, different cultures.
It's the connection. It's a connection between the coach, the staff, the support group with the players. It's their connection with each other, and that's the great thing about team sport. It's the connections and the group dynamics that come together that enable you to put a performance, a nice kind of product out on the floor that go ahead and achieve. And as it grows and grows and grows, but the competition is a small window, and sometimes it happens easy and sometimes it doesn't happen at all, and it could be the difference between a couple of players' personnel, could be the difference between what's going on in certain people's lives to make it all work. And as a coach, as an athlete, as an owner, you got to try and find out what it is. Physios and wives and everybody has input, and their interaction affects about how it moves.
Everyone's got to be on the same page.
Yeah, you know, it's just like going to work. You know, if things aren't great at home, things could be average at work. Things are great at home, you go to work, things start rolling a lot smoother.
Happy wife, happy life, Pero. all the boys need to know, happy wife, happy life. Now tell me, when you're looking at an import, do you look at your team and go, oh, okay, we're missing this, and then do you look, or are you actually just looking for a person and going, ha, we want him?
Yeah, it's kind of, you know, it's word of mouth, asking past coaches, asking agents, asking past teams, teammates, and how they reacted and how they were to deal with, and, you know, eventually the quality, what they put on the court, how they make the team work, you know. And a point guard, that's their job, is to make the team, the gelling faster, because they've got to get on with the 7-foot guy who's usually a lovely gentleman, and then they got to get on with the young guy who's, you know, thinks he's a bit better than he really is, and you got to make it all work. And out there on the court, and it's such a fast game that it's hard to stop every 3-4 seconds. It's just going and going and going.
Now, we've got a lot of homegrown talent too. We don't necessarily need imports. We could just be purely Kiwi-based, because you've got the High Performance Academy happening in Hamilton. Tell me about this.
Yeah, that was something, the Waikato Basketball Association or Council set up, and it's to get young players and develop their talent and develop them as players to a higher level earlier, so that, you know, when they are 17 to 22, they are good enough. You know, they have had some quality experiences, and they have learned to train really hard, and they have learned all the new ins and outs and vocab that comes with the sport, and the changing, you know, of the way the style is played. So it's really tough, because it's that time of life where university and, you know, socialising and different aspects come into your life, and they've got to make that decision.
Have you got some good players in that academy, ones to watch?
So we really do 13s and 15s.
Yes.
And, you know, obviously we do look at 17s and 19s.
Yes.
And we try and build them from there. We have a couple of young guys in our squad who are in the last year of high school, the first 2 years outside of high school. And we've got some other kids who are going on to college.
Yes.
So they're not here for the whole season, but hopefully, you know, we do right by them, that, you know, later they do right by us and come back to the team.
Come back to the Pistons. We want them here.
Yes.
Pero Cameron, we're rapt that you're back in the Waikato.
Cheers.
It's kind of where you belong. And go the Pistons.
Yeah, thank you. It's really warm here at the moment. I'm enjoying my time.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Next week, the Pistons face off against the Taranaki Mountaineers again, this time in an away game. After the break, the next generation and sustainable futures. Welcome back to Central News. Young innovators are being urged to be part of promoting a sustainable eco-future by entering into the Young Innovator Awards. Hilary finds out more.
Lynn, what have been some of the past entries that have caught your eye?
Well, personally, and I'm not a judge, but I really, really enjoy seeing the sustainability ones, the solutions to, say, the sea lettuce. We had a couple of entries around that. We also had an entry around promoting an app to promote carpooling. And also we had one, for example, like a disposable toilet roll. So those ones that have got a real key sustainability focus are the ones that I really, really enjoy reading about.
And what about you, Timothy? Have there been any that have kind of caught your eye?
Yeah, we've had a few. You know, Sam Boggis's idea, which was an application, he did an internship. That was pretty cool. That was sort of to do with, it's probably to do with health in flight, and, you know, DVT, thrombosis, things like that. And then the one last year, Harry's gutter cone, which was pretty cool. So that was basically an ice cream cone that basically didn't fall to bits and drip all down the sides. That was quite cool. He did his internship last year as well. So there's lots of pretty neat ideas like that, and it's really great having them like in the studio and seeing, you know, you sort of work with them to help to try and realise their idea a bit further.
Why does Locus Research choose to support the YIA Awards?
We've always been involved with educational programs, and I think the Young Innovator Awards, which were developed, you know, by Priority One and InStep, I think they represented something that we could engage with within our region, because virtually all of the other stuff used to be at a national level. So, you know, the challenge is it's not in the Bay of Plenty. So being involved so directly with students in schools and helping them see what a potential career looks like. I mean, when I was their age, I had no idea that what I do today existed. And it took me quite a circuitous route to get there. So, I mean, even from that side, it's nice to be able to illustrate to them that they can do such a fun job.
How important is sustainability now in the workplace?
I think these days it's vital. I mean, any student that's coming through YA really needs to try and get a handle around the idea and how that they can apply it in their work, particularly if you consider that innovation's primarily taking products and services to market. If those products and services aren't sustainable, then, you know, you have a problem at the end of the day. So it's pretty critical that they understand it. I mean, how we're trying to communicate it to them is, and this comes back down to the idea of it can be both a product or a service, is that, you know, some physical products can be removed by making it a service, which may remove something from having to be produced. So we're saying, well, look, you know, you can have something that's comprised of both products and services. You know, even Gmail at the end of the day has a bunch of servers that somebody has to do. That's a physical product. And then if you take a Toyota, I mean, you know, it still has to be serviced at the end of the day. So those things are mutually dependent. So working really holistically is the way to develop more sustainable products and services going forward. And most businesses these days, I mean, whilst they have an idea about it, they're led by people who probably don't fully understand it, and it isn't really in their, well, they've struggled to sort of integrate it into a way that they work on a day-to-day. I mean, you look at our kids now, recycling is institutionalised in school, all of those sort of things. So the kids coming through, they're definitely going to be the ones that'll make the difference.
For more information on the awards, you can visit yia.co.nz. And taking a look at the Waikato weather now, Hamilton, your Friday, you're in for showers with northeasterlies, a high of 23 and a low of 14. Paeroa, showers with northeasterlies, a high of 23 and a low of 13. Matamata, a high of 21 and a low of 14. For Te Awamutu, showers with northeasterlies, a high of 23 and a low of 14. Tokoroa, showers with a high of 20 and a low of 15. And taking a look at the Bay of Plenty now, for Tauranga, rain at times with northeasterly breezes, a high of 22 and a low of 17. Te Puke, showery with 19 as a high and a low of 16. And that's Central News for tonight. Make sure you like us on Facebook and let us know if there's news or an event in your community that we can support. Thanks for having us at your place. I'm Wayne Douglas. Pamaree.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.